Welcome to the next section of our Cloud Summit. So far today, you have been hearing mostly from Avast people, from our CEO to our technical people, to the panel discussion you hopefully would have visited earlier. But that was a very internal view from us, regardless of how much research we do and how much more insight we think we have. It's always very beneficial to hear an external view. Somebody who is sitting with customers every day, who are living the problems we see in the cyber world. And we thought that at this point, it would be very good to get that external view. And we've invited some of our partners from the US and from the UK today to share their view, not just of the industry, but also how they interact with Avast and why they like to partner with Avast. So I'm going to go through a series of questions with these gentlemen. First of all, I'll introduce them. I've got Chris Murray from Bleem in the UK. Chris, maybe you'd like just to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris from Bleem Cybersecurity, and I am the lead security consultant and one of the directors. We provide managed security services and consulting for small and medium businesses throughout the UK. We help them to achieve standards such as Cyber Essentials and ISO 27001.
All right, thanks, Chris. And we have Norman Landerman from SDSI. I think that one forwarded today, or I hope that's where you are, Norman.
That's where I am, down in Delray Beach, Florida. My name's Norm Landerman. I'm with Systems Design and Support. We're a 25-year-old systems integrator of networks, voice, and data solutions. So everything from infrastructure, and of course, for the last couple of years, a very heavy focus on providing security for our customers.
Okay, nice to meet you again, Norman. And finally, we have Julian Jacques from BCN. So Julian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. My name is Julian Jacques. I'm President and COO at BCN Telecom. We're based here in the United States. Been in business a little over 25 years. Our focus is serving business customers. We provide data, voice, and managed services, kind of in a single experience platform, if you will, for our business customers. Do it on a nationwide basis.
Okay, again, Julian, thank you for joining us, and nice to meet you as well. So guys, I'm going to start off with a really easy question, and probably one of the most asked questions in every industry at the moment. But it's always good to get that kind of personal view. And the question is, how has the pandemic affected your business? And Julian, if you mind, I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, like most businesses, back in March, we had to quickly look internally and take our employee base across our offices in the U.S. We have about 4 offices with primary headcount, and we had to move those employees and the functions that they complete into a telework or remote work environment. Pretty challenging couple of weeks. Many of these functions have been built around being in a collaborative office environment, and we had to do again what most companies had to do in that period of time, and we had to get our employees in a safe work environment, as well as adhere to all of the local, various federal, state, and local regulations and directions that were coming out at that time. We were successful in doing that, I'm happy to say, and we are very happy with the outcome that's come from that. It's actually caused us to step back from our business and really think about what it's going to look like in the future.
Okay, and in terms of that, is that an ongoing process, Julian, in terms of that kind of trying to look into that crystal ball, or have COVID and the pandemic taken away some of the fog for you?
Well, it is an ongoing process. What I like to say is we truly found out what we're capable of, and maybe historically what we viewed as being the right way or the only way. We really figured out what we're capable of. We actually learned a lot about our employees, just from the standpoint of their commitment to the company, their commitment to their family and their communities, and how that all kind of converged at once. Everything kind of got stacked on top of each other in the middle of their office or living room or wherever they may have moved their work environment to. So we, it's been a very good process. Like a lot of businesses here, early September, we actually reopened our offices in an initial phase 1 of our process. And that is simply making the offices available for employees that need to go to an office to complete a task, or as we say, you going to the office should be success-based, meaning you need to be there for your success. That doesn't mean you have to go to the office. We really are focused on what's the right answer. And with that, we were able to extend our telework environment through the end of the year, but now are actually kind of beginning to feather in, if you will, some office environments. And we believe the future is going to be of that for us.
Okay.
It's going to be a hybrid environment for us going forward.
And again, I'm sure there's a lot of similarities between many companies from what you're going through, but Norman, is it any different for you and your company down in Florida?
Well, Florida, of course, being a hotspot, we sort of, well, first of all, like most companies, we're very comfortable with providing services remotely as well as working remotely. But this has forced us into a hybrid situation since, I personally am in a, more of that demographic that is required to work from home, whereas that's not true with my engineers and some other people in the company. So we immediately jumped into a hybrid situation. And as far as the technology, there really wasn't a lot of concern there. Of course, we do run the Avast solution, so we were protected from that side already. But other than that, it's been a fairly easy process. The only difficulty being the type of tag that you end up playing, going back and forth between someone on the outside and people on the inside.
Okay. Thanks for that. And maybe just, Chris, you might have a slightly different view coming from the UK, and maybe be able to give us a slant on that compared to what Julian and Norman said.
Yeah, I mean, for us personally as a business, we were already, often working from home or working from client site, so it didn't really affect us too much. But we did have clients that faced challenges that process sensitive information, and we had to help them to make sure they were still compliant and still secure while working remotely. And I think in general, many of them have continued to work remotely now. They're operating in a slightly hybrid model where some of them are in the office and some of them are working from home. But I think that's what we're going to see more of in the future. Okay,
and actually, maybe I just wanted to pick up on a word or a phrase that Julian mentioned, that during this we've learned about what we're capable of. And there is some quote which I can't remember about. It's something in adversity we learn more about ourselves. But Chris, if I could start with you, I mean, within your own customer bases, and maybe other than learning about disaster recovery or making changes to the disaster recovery plans, do you find that your customers have learned anything new that's going to be long lasting, or using Julian's phrase, did they find out where their capabilities were during this crisis?
Yeah, I certainly think so. And we were actually working with a company just as everything started going to lockdown in the UK. And we were in the process of implementing Avast Secure Internet Gateway. And just due to the timing, we were very fortunate that we were able to deploy it just as the UK went into lockdown. So they were able to secure and see the network traffic from the entire workforce from day zero, which was very, very useful and helpful for them. And I think, obviously, it's made some businesses think about continuity planning and DR planning, and just really planning for the worst and to make sure that the business can continue to operate if there is a situation like this or something similar that happens, can you continue to work from home? Can you continue to work if you're not able to access the office? So yeah, I think there has certainly been some valuable lessons learned across our client base. Obviously, it does differ by sector. Certainly, manufacturing sector is not so simple, but I think everybody everywhere has learned some form of valuable lesson.
And Norman, if I could place the same question with you, but maybe just listening to Krista and thinking, are we beginning to see changes in business models as well as just understanding where the extent of our capabilities are in terms of the way we protect our employees and probably ourselves to an extent in the cyber world?
Well, if I can get back to the capabilities thing, one of the aspects that I think was discovered was while some companies may have had a couple of road warriors out or executives working from home, they didn't have the number of people dispersed from different aspects of the company that normally don't work from the outside. And there was suddenly a need the technology side of things, it's pretty easy to set up remote workers, but the security concern and the behavioral concerns that a corporation has, you don't really have to keep an eye that much on your employees inside. You do, but it's not the same as when they're working from home. And there are a lot of things that you can control on the inside that all of a sudden had to be extended to people who are working from their homes or remote offices or are mobile. So that was one of the areas that really stood out, and we were happy to be in a position to address. Because the first thing is, how do we get these people to work? Technically, the technical issue is the first thing that hits you, and they resolve that. And, the next thing is, well, you can't just sit back and be happy with that as completing the picture. So, you did have to approach suddenly this capability side and functionality side that you didn't focus on quite as much on the internal side of the firewall.
Okay. And Julian, I have exactly the same question to you in terms about that customer base and what have they learned in terms of the stretching their capabilities, and are you seeing any within that customer base any kind of changes in the business model and their approaches?
Well, we've seen a lot of different reactions, if you will, from customers as they went through the process. And quite honestly, I think a lot of customers are very similar to our businesses in that, we're planning ahead, but recognizing that we have to, we kind of have to develop and course correct as we move along, because quite frankly, there's just some things that are not in our control at this time. So it's kind of more about how you respond to those things. And so we've seen a lot of customers. Our customer base may be a little bit different than Chris or Norman's, and I say that with not great knowledge, but BCN, we're a nationwide competitive local exchange carrier. That's our legacy, and then we're also a provider of core data services and emerging services, emerging products, emerging technologies. So we have customers who purchase along that spectrum, if you will, that service portfolio. So we have some customers who really had kind of hardwired things that they needed to deal with at their offices. And then we have other customers that had more kind of the earlier comment, everyone has all the data needs solved at their office, but now suddenly 100% of the employees are no longer in the office. So the entire day, the entire environment just went remote. So we had customers had to deal with that. What we did notice was a lot of customers, and again, it's just the nature of this pandemic is the uncertainty of what the future was. A lot of our customers, they wanted to immediately reduce the service levels at the offices as a cost savings measure, during the process. But at the same time, the minute they would be allowed to reopen, they wanted immediate availability of that same service level. So, that's quite frankly, that can be a challenging environment when you're dealing with,
that leads me, if you don't mind, just to a question here about, because again, what has the pandemic done? I mean, we can dial it up or dial it down, but it's just meant, for most of us, it's remote working. Now, many people are really enjoying the idea of being at home all the time, and you'll see surveys where said we don't want to go back to work. Again, within the environments where you guys are, do you actually think that people will make that as a permanent decision? And the nature of work is obviously, it can change, and outside of the real estate people who are probably sweating bullets about this at the moment, but do you think that pendulum has swung to a point where people will work from home, and companies will design their business models just to keep people at home, and then that gives the likes of you a challenge in how do we provide the security for these guys? And Norman, maybe if I could ask you that, do you think that we have swung that far, or is it we will swing back again once this pandemic has passed?
Well, I think it's swung to the point where people see, the negative side of having an external workforce to that degree. So I think it's swinging back into what will ultimately be the hybrid solution, depending upon line of business concerns, collaborative requirements. Even a Zoom session does not provide the same kind of collaboration as people who are, together in a conference room or sitting around the water cooler or break room, or, popping up above their cubicle to speak with someone in the next cubicle. So it's these Zoom meetings tend to be very, they're task oriented. If you don't have something to say, or if there's a point where nobody has anything to say, that's the end of the meeting. So you don't get the casual add-ons, that you do in the internal environment. I think companies are beginning to realize this. So I think they are, like I said, swinging back towards a hybrid model. And I think that will definitely remain in place. Some companies don't have a choice because, some people are still going to have to stay on the outside for quite a while. But I don't think it's going to go 100% one way. I don't think it's going to go 100% back, and I don't think it's going to be 100% remote.
Okay. And again, I'm going to continue with the theme here. And Norman, I think I'll just start with Chris, but come back to that. We've had that swing, and maybe when you think about how we protect, we said, we need to protect the remote worker more and more. And I think it's probably obvious that network security is now, so important and tantamount to what we're doing and securing the network and the gateway, etc. But Chris, from a practical perspective, can you just maybe outline what that has meant for you and your customers right now, in terms of that change that has happened probably since February or March this year, and how you approach that problem to help them?
I think in many ways the pandemic has accelerated some of the things we were going to see anyway, with an increase in mobile workers. And certainly if you look at where the technology that businesses use, from applications and things that were once on-premise in the office or maybe in a data center, they're all moving to cloud services that can be accessed from anywhere on any device. And connectivity is also getting closer to devices. Now more and more we're seeing tablets and again, just to prove that we're doing this live, we seem to have lost Chris. And Julian, while Chris is reconnecting, I don't know whether you could pick up that question. We built in 5G connectivity.
Well, I don't know if he's back or not, but I just want to clarify, when I said behavioral, I was talking about what you need to manage in terms of security behavior. Because now content filtering, behavior on the network, protection against, it's no longer just DNS protection. There are so many security aspects that become accentuated when you have people working outside of the perimeter. To have a ubiquitous solution that covers everything, everybody, everywhere, on everything, and be able to implement firewall rules, groups, that kind of control, extending uniformly or specifically through various aspects of the enterprise. That's that's really it's really been a concern that companies, like I said, haven't had to address previously. They didn't have to get that granular, and they didn't have to exercise that level of concern. And when you say, did COVID complicate anything, it did, because we were already experiencing a situation where we were just beginning to awaken our customer base to the necessity of inspecting previously uninspected traffic, SSL traffic. And having, and being involved in that, and then suddenly having COVID hit, definitely complicated it, because it's sort of like a 1-2 punch. It's like, well, you not only need to deal with a new architectural reality, but by the way, there's this other security reality that has come over the horizon that you also have to deal with that you haven't dealt with before. So from our side as a service provider, it complicated our efforts. It complicated what our customers had to learn and realize and accept. So yeah, I think that's part of the effect that COVID had on our business.
Okay, thank you for that.
I could add to that too.
Sure.
This is Julian. And I agree with everything Norman has shared there. It's actually interesting listening to these responses. So this panel is really, really good from that standpoint. But one of the reasons that we were attracted to Avast originally was, again, we have a lot of business customers that are in business offices, and we needed to bring in a cloud-based firewall solution into our emerging technologies product so that we could further enhance a lot of the other things that we do, such as SD-WAN, internet access, et cetera. We've been doing the premise-based stuff for a while. But what we really liked about Avast is it actually showed us a pathway for the future, and then COVID hit, and the future kind of became now, in that our initial focus was, kind of securing, adding this firewall to an office environment or a multi-location office environment, which we get a lot of traction with. But now we have all of the remote employees of that office, and the fact that we can deploy this down to the PC level through the natural progression of the product that we get from Avast, it really allowed us to kind of cover both areas. And we thought it was a good idea, but then COVID hit and it became kind of a great idea, is the reality of it.
Well, Julian, I mean, it's always good when somebody is talking highly of Avast, and I didn't even have to prompt you yet. So I love that answer. And Chris, I mean, maybe come back to you. The same question here about the way the pendulum has swung, but also the importance of how you're protecting your customers, and the importance of the network security and the gateway. I mean, have you had much of a different experience with customers in the UK?
No, I think it's very much the same. But I think what we've seen is that the pandemic has accelerated where we were going anyway in many respects. Because whether it's laptops, tablets, more and more devices are now, they have connectivity built in with, LTE or 5G connectivity. And business applications and business data, which was traditionally on-premise in a data center in the office, is now moving into cloud services. And more people are working from home, they're working from other businesses and so on. So really, businesses needed to start taking that into account anyway, and thinking about, does our security offer us complete coverage of our entire workforce, regardless of location? And obviously, the further the time goes, I think that's going to become more and more important. So if we look at traditional network security that many businesses work with today, it's like a castle and moat style architecture. But the problem with the pandemic is no one's inside the castle, everyone's left. So unless they're all connecting back in to their office through a VPN, which, for some businesses, if you've suddenly gone from, 20 employees working remotely to 300, that can be impossible for various reasons. And there are also lots of costs associated with that. And the management of those solutions can be very difficult. So I think, it really does show that there is a use case for a service such as Avast SIG and Secure Access Service Edge and Cloud Edge delivered security.
Okay. And actually, I think, Chris, you highlighted maybe a difference between our UK brethren and the US brethren, in that you used the analogy of castles, and there's probably a lack of castles in the US when it comes to using that as an analogy. But thanks for that insight. And we've been talking about where the security is taking place, and clearly so much of this is in the cloud. Do you think COVID has accelerated, and this is maybe a little controversial, the depth of hardware-based security, or is it becoming obsolete, or is it still a necessity for us in the industry?
Well, I think yes. I think there's a real decline that's going to happen immediately, with good reason, in terms of the premise-based hardware solution. I know with us, a lot of our high functionality premise devices are now becoming nothing more than gateways to the Avast solution. But I mean, the thing is, things don't become obsolete if they're sitting there doing the same job for the last 10 years. They're not obsolete. They're still doing the same job. The thing is that premise-based equipment today, with the increase in bandwidth that most companies now have and consistently continuing to increase, as well as the need for the higher performance of inspecting encrypted traffic, basically these are largely obsolete because of the amount of processing, the amount of overhead and resources on the hardware side that you need to maintain. And the larger your company, the larger the need that you have, these become just quantum leaps in terms of the hardware world. Plus, you talk about the pendulum of business. Well, that affects all of those aspects that I'm talking about. So when the business model swings, all of a sudden you have to reevaluate your hardware in terms of what the requirements are. With SIG, you can increase your bandwidth, you can decrease your bandwidth. You're not surprised by increased costs as far as meeting those needs. And it takes a lot of the hesitation on the business side. If they do want to change, their deployment, the distribution of labor, the one thing that really isn't a concern is that hardware device. And I think that's something that companies are becoming very much aware of.
Okay. All right. Again, thanks again for a very insightful answer there. Julian, do you have an opinion on this?
Well, I would agree that I believe that premise-based equipment will be on the decline. I don't know that I would go so far as say that it will, this will be the death of it, I think was the statement. I can tell you in 2020, we've had one of our most robust years through the pandemic of deploying premise-based equipment. And I think for BCN, for us, it's really finding the right partners that we can make these cloud-based or distributed services available. And as the technology meets the needs of the customer, the answer will become obvious, in my opinion. So if a multi-location customer grows to the point that a premise-based firewall solution at every location is a challenge to manage, deploy, implement, replace when fail, all those things, they're going to just naturally evolve to where the technology is going to take them, and the answer will become obvious. Now, some providers or some customers, they may only have 2 or 3 locations, and they may simply they've already invested, and they may simply say, this is working great for me, based upon the needs of my business. So I don't think it's the death of it. Did it give it a good push, away from the dock, if you will? I think so. I think COVID's forced a lot of businesses to reevaluate. So, one of the comments I would make is, there are a lot of businesses. We serve a lot of customers that are in business, meaning they are in their location of business during the course of COVID. So it's not just the insurance company that no longer is in a big office because the office is closed. No, we have 1,000 location convenience stores chains that they're open. They need they're active. We have primary care facilities, hospitals, universities, and just a lot of other, even the restaurants to an extent are coming back now. So there are a lot there, there's going to be a lot of businesses that will be in their traditional workspaces now and in the future because, not everyone is just 100 people in a box office.
Yeah, again, a balanced answer. I mean, I suppose that, I'd love the idea that everything was going into the cloud for Avast, but I mean, clearly, the whole market hasn't shifted that way. And Chris, maybe just to close out on this question, I mean, do you have a view on this in terms of the potential obsolescence of hardware-based security?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to become obsolete, but I think if you look ahead at the next 5 to 10 years, I think what we'll see is a decline in the sale of network security appliances to smaller businesses, just down to the adoption of cloud edge delivered security. I think that's where things are heading. But then you've still got your service providers, of varying types that will still require network security appliances. Be it a bank that has their own internet banking platform that they need to protect that, and I think that's where we will see security hardware being purchased. But I think in general, over time, we will see a decline, and it will become something that's a cloud delivered service.
Okay, but guys, we invited you here because you are already partnering with Avast. So maybe, it's a fair question for me to ask maybe each of you to say, and you've touched on this already, but what made you choose Avast as a technology partner for you, and what has your experience been like since you made that jump? And Norman, if you don't mind, I'll start with you again, if that's okay.
Well, one of the primary things is, we've always advocated flexibility for our customers, and we tend to just, in terms of our perspective on life, we like solutions that are not, let's say, specifically, dependent upon a vendor. In the cloud firewall area, there are service providers who provide cloud-based security. However, the great thing about Avast, and on top of what I was talking about before in terms of the scalability and portability and ubiquity of it, but is also the fact that it is essentially the portability of the solution itself. It's provider agnostic. So if one of our customers, has had a love affair with AT&T for the past 6 or 7 years, and now something has changed and they're looking at another provider, part of, they may be in love, but they're not married. Okay, so if they do want to move to another provider, it's just a matter of essentially pointing SIG through another provider. And especially the more complex they are, if we've configured groups of users and other aspects that are afforded within SIG or within any solution, the thought of having to reconfigure all of that by changing service providers is no longer a concern. So that was one of the major aspects in our choice, as well as the others that I mentioned.
All right, great, thanks. And Chris, same question to you.
Yes, so we, as a business, we like to look for best-in-class vendors, and traditionally, a lot of the vendors that we work with wouldn't necessarily work with SME businesses. So we test lots of different services and lots of different solutions available on the markets, because effectively the way we work with our customers, they trust us as their consultants and advisors when they're purchasing security solutions. And certainly from experience with both Avast SIG and Avast Private Access, in fact, I think we were probably one of the first, if not the first, customers in the UK to deploy it. It is most definitely an enterprise class product. And considering, the cost of this, which is effectively a subscription service, the level of security and features that you get with it, without doubt, it is one of the best, if not the best, cloud-delivered network security solutions on the market.
Julian, if I could pose that question to you again, and you of the three of you here today, you're the newest partner for us. So
We are.
Yeah.
Good. Well, so we went through a process where we had identified what I'll call shelf space in our service offering. And so we kind of defined the space. So then we went and started looking for partners in the space. And similar, I think what others have said, for us, Avast came back high, our view on them was highly capable in this space. Our lab testing proved out that everything we were told actually worked in the manner that it was supposed to. We actually did a number of trial deployments on our various types of services, and we kind of proved it all out. We also feel that Avast is of the size and nature that you're going to advance with the technology. We're not really going to have to push you. We suspect you're going to pull us, which is great. One less thing we have to worry about. You're just bring us to the next evolution of this. The other things that we liked in comparing, because we looked at a few other providers in the space. One of the things we really liked, and I think Norman mentioned this earlier, is that we like the kind of the consumption side, how you consume it, how you ultimately price it and pay for it. We really like that it's kind of driven by the user and not the size and scope of the bandwidth. The challenge we've got with a lot of premise devices and really with a lot of other cloud firewall providers is they all generally they want to measure it based they want you to buy it or consume it based upon the size of the bandwidth, and bandwidth is going, bandwidth pricing is going down. People are buying more bandwidth because it's simply more affordable. And at the same time, you could be driving up your cost of your firewall just because you got a great deal on a 1 gig circuit. And maybe the reality was your business only needed a 100 meg circuit. But the minute you made that change, you now are buying 1 gig of throughput bandwidth firewall. And that's just not the way it works with Avast. So we really like that model. And then lastly, as I shared earlier, we saw the pathway. We didn't realize it was going to come into focus as quickly as it did, but we, serving business customers and business offices, we saw the pathway for needing to be at the PC level or at the desktop level in a remote environment. We get that with which again, if you're buying from other solutions, it's a bandwidth driven thing. I mean, you go out and buy a nice, big, robust broadband internet access service, and the fact is, the firewall may cost more than everything on the table, but not with the approach that we've seen with Avast, which we really like. So.
Okay, good.
Can I throw one other thing in that had to do with our decision?
Of course you can, Norman.
One of the things also is, although this solution and this ability is new to the mid-sized marketplace, actually largely due to Avast's ability, to provide it to people like us, so that we can provide it to companies in that SMB market. It's not a new technology. It's not a new solution. So while we are for the first time offering it and for the first time putting it in front of our customers and an expanded customer base, it's a mature solution. It's a solution that's been out there on the enterprise level, for quite a while. So it has, immediately a cred to it. that we can put in front of our customers. It's not like, hey, this is the new latest and greatest thing. It's like, here's something that you haven't had before that you need now more than ever, and you can get it through us. So
I appreciate that. Guys, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to wrap up here, and if I can, and it's always difficult when I set this parameter, but in a sentence, have you any kind of final thoughts? And maybe what I'll do is I'll start with Chris, Julian, and finish with you, Norman, if that's okay. So Chris, if you were to leave a message for your customers, your prospects, in a sentence, what would you say about your relationship with Avast?
Yeah, I think Avast are a very, very good company to work with, and certainly from the perspective of a small business, you listen to feedback and you help us when we need it, and obviously the portfolio of products that you have, like SIG and private access, they're both enterprise class products, and you simply just need to evaluate those products to appreciate the value that they give versus other products that are out there. I think the proof is in the pudding, as they say in Yorkshire.
Thanks, Chris. Julian.
Yeah, I would say that the Avast technology that we're now providing it's a great enhancement to and further enables a lot of our existing core and emerging products. And when we take this product and add it to the service solution, it really can allow the customer to have a single experience across a lot of different service categories. And they don't really have to fragment that relationship. They don't have to fragment that experience, meaning having 2 or 3 providers to get to the full solution. They can get to the full solution with BCN, and through the Avast relationship, we've absolutely filled in this cloud firewall space, which is a leading technology provider. The capabilities in here are you would pay a whole lot if you were going to do some of this on a premise-based solution. So that's what I would say to them. Have conversation with us. We think it'll be a great addition to their service lineup with us.
All right. And thanks. And Norman, finally to you.
Well, I think it's a perfect combination because, as I was saying before, it's bringing about an enterprise solution through a company that is used to working with the SMB marketplace and the full range of size of business. So you're when it comes to the sales side, when it comes to the support side, when it comes to the business needs side of understanding the end user and company's needs, I mean that's a playground that Avast has been in for quite a long time. So to have that combined with such an enterprise level quality and capability, product and capability, is perfect for a company like mine, because we're the third piece of that pie, and we need both of those to be in place. So we're not dealing with some kind of a behemoth that we're just a small player and they don't care about the size customer and company. They're used to dealing with all different sizes of companies and as well as companies like mine. So that's something to communicate, to my customers and right down to the end user level, and to other companies like mine who are looking at this.
Okay, guys. Again, Norman, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your insights. I appreciate it. I think you've been candid and balanced with the views, even though you're working with Avast. I think you were, as I said, honest and candid with those. So thank you very much. Stay safe and hope to get to meet you guys once the pandemic disappears. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.